Joining me now is Detroit Free Press columnist Drew Sharp here on the Rich Eisen Show once again. How are you, Drew?
Pretty good, Rich. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. For those who have yet to read your column entitled "Blame NFL, but Don't Let Lions Off the Hook," what's your point today, Drew?
Well, clearly the NFL blew that call. There's no question about this. The second time in the last 5 Detroit Lions games, including that playoff game in Dallas, where you can point to a controversial official's call that played a critical role in the Lions losing a game. But as much as people in Detroit, I'm sure, are fuming about the NFL and blowing that call, it can't be forgotten that the offense of the Detroit Lions once again failed miserably. They've now gone 15 straight quarters without producing a touchdown. And let's not forget, Calvin Johnson, he's the guy you want having the ball in that situation. He's normally shorthanded. He fumbled the ball.
Yeah, I know, and it's another goal end zone situation for him. We all know there's something called the Calvin Johnson rule, if you will, where just remind about going down to the ground, and that wasn't a call that went the Lions' way. It just seems one after another that we're seeing this sort of thing, and I'm wondering how the fan base continues to be able to find it within themselves to keep hope alive in that regard, Drew.
Yeah, it is hard for them because especially look at last night. Matthew Stafford, their quarterback, has yet to beat a team on the road that finished with a winning record. And on that last drive, it looked like, oh, my goodness, Stafford's really playing well here. He completed 6 out of 6 passes on that last drive. That could have been a very pivotal victory for him as far as where his career projects forward. Instead, it's a new way of the Lions torturing their fans and themselves. I mean, the look on the faces of some of these players, Golden Tate, who 2 years ago was a key contributor to the Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl team, he looked like, and the term I use is lionized. This dazed look on your face, and you can't believe what had just happened. And Golden Tate came here 2 years ago saying, I'm going to make the Lions think like me, think like a winner. And now he's starting to look like a Detroit Lion.
Yeah, and he did say after the game, essentially, like, I don't call the plays, where he was a little bit distressed on the conversation about the offensive ineptitude, and that's something that you put also in your column about this sort of thing. What is wrong with the Lions offense?
Well, the offensive line is terrible, but I think there are a lot of bad offensive lines. You saw the Seattle Seahawks offensive line. It was worse than the Detroit Lions last night. But in Matthew Stafford's case, I do think that this Jim Caldwell and offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi are trying to put the reins on Matthew Stafford. He's a gunslinger who doesn't really know which way the gun is pointed at any given time. That makes him an exciting player, but also an excruciating player. You've seen that his first 5 or 6 years in the league. They're trying to make him more programmed, but as a result, he's not taking deep strikes downfield. He's checking off, going to the, it's just easier for defenses now to defend the Detroit Lions. They're not even worried about Calvin Johnson being a deep threat. I believe he had 56 yards receiving last night. So I'm not sure if he's even had a 100-yard receiving game yet. So the Lions, for all the explosive weapons that they have, they can't seem to find the ignition for it.
Drew Sharp of the Detroit Free Press joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show before he boards a flight to leave Seattle after that Monday night game, or debacle of a finish. There's no other way to put it. We're here on the Rich Eisen Show. So what do the Lions do? They have Arizona home next. I mean, they're staring 0-5 right in the face, Drew.
Absolutely. And Rich, they got beaten up in that game last night. We'll know today the full extent of the injuries, but Teron Walker, they lost to a gruesome-looking leg injury. He's probably gone for the season. Eric Ebron, the tight end, is having an MRI on his left knee. It didn't look good. So the injuries are piling up. Haloti Ngata missed the second half of the game with a calf injury. He's going to have an MRI too. So it's just piling on for the Lions right now. And as much as they're trying to put a brave front on and say all we have to do is keep working, it's pretty evident right now that this season is very close to spinning out of control.
Is there any chance that the coach is on the hot seat there, Drew?
Well, Jim Caldwell has one bad side. He goes to London in week 8. Don't go to London and struggle. No. Because the last 2 years, the coach that's gone to London got fired because of the bye week afterwards. So you get 2 weeks. So Yeah, so if you're Jim Caldwell, it would behoove him to get a couple of wins before they go to London October 31st.
That's right. Dennis Allen last year for the Raiders, and now Joe Philbin.
Joe
this year.
Philbin, yeah.
Wow, that's right. London is a bad, bad spot to struggle. You're right, Drew.
Because you get a bye week.
Hey,
that's why it gives an excuse now. So.
Before I let you go, my Wolverines, they've got a clear path to the top 10 right now. All they got to do is win 2 home games in a row, albeit against Northwestern and Michigan State. But what is the sense in the state of Michigan about the Wolverines right now, Drew?
Well, the sense right now is that Harbaugh has brought toughness back to this organization, to this program. He's doing it simplistically, Rich. They're pounding the crap out of people at the offensive line and the defensive line. Now, granted, they haven't played, a tremendous offense yet this season. They faced a BYU team that was on its 3rd road trip in 4 weeks, but that test is going to come in a couple of weeks. The Michigan State Spartans come into town, into Ann Arbor. They win that game, and they are a legitimate threat to win the Big Ten.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, Drew, I mean, your last line of your column today, again, in the Detroit Free Press, Drew Sharp's blame NFL, but don't let the Lions off the hook. I want to read it. Just when you think this franchise has exhausted every conceivable way of further torturing itself and every gullible person who still believes in it, the Lions write another fresh chapter of football hell. You did not have a mic in your hand, but did you drop your keyboard after writing that line, Drew?
That's why that was the last line. Okay, it's 1 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. I'm done. Tip your waitresses.
Wow. I mean, that does sum up the sense, I guess, of things. Drew, thanks for calling into the show. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care, Rich.
You bet. That's Drew Sharp of the Detroit Free Press here on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.